because it's the middle of the night and I'm up doing a podcast. Can you actually see me? Oh my God. Guys, I woke up about 5 minutes ago. I hope no one's watching YouTube. I'm unhappy with my fringe. It's split open. Everything looks oily.
Whatever. It's really cute. You have like this cowlick in the middle and it's so cute.
Look at my lips.
Your lips, I can't actually, it's a little pixelated for me right now, so I can't really see your lips.
It's because it's the middle of the night here. That's why. And there's no light. I was like, I'll open my blinds to let the sun light me up. No, there's no sun. It's pitch black outside.
No sunshine. Hello. Welcome to the Mother Days. I am your host, Sarah Wright Olsen.
And I'm sort of Teresa Palmer, but I'll be more me in about 4 hours when I wake up. Hello from jet lag. Woo.
The land of jet lag. But you're back in Oz. You're back in Australia.
I'm back in Australia.
My heart is hurting and yearning.
I know. You won't be able to make me laugh this episode because my lips are so chapped that they'll split open.
Oh,
so
no.
I'll have to laugh like I have a little bum hole for a mouth. Like, how funny.
Yeah.
Someone said something yesterday at school and it made me smile. And I was like, like all the lips just ripped open. I was like, please stop.
Where is your bayo? We need to get you some bayo.
I know. You know, Bodhi stole it and then loses it. You know how he does that? It's so annoying. So I had to go get really crap lip balm from the supermarket. I was like, none of this is okay for me. None of this is okay. I know. I really need it. But anyway. God. Hi, guys.
Okay, I'm actually dying for you to tell us the story about this dream that you had. By the way, someone wrote a message on, I feel like it was Instagram or maybe it was YouTube, but they said, Sarah's a really terrible friend to Teresa because she makes her tell all of her personal stories. But she was like legitimately like mad at me for being an awful friend.
Oh my God. I'm the scapegoat. I'm the one that tells like all the crazy stories.
I'm like
Sarah told that poo story.
Yeah, thank you. No, that I just ask you questions and have you tell stories. And
yeah, but I'm very open. You know me. I'm like, I'll just spill it all out, you know. I'll probably one day regret it. We each play individual roles and I'm the one that we laugh at.
So we laugh with you, okay?
Oh my God. Okay, so funny story. Me and Mark and our children went to the Toronto Film Festival, by the way, had the best time.
Your pictures were amazing.
Oh my God, thank you.
And we were talking about the Toronto Film Festival and how incredible it is.
How good it is.
And it is, right? It's like massive.
You know, I have actually, you know how basically I have no memory?
Yeah. Yes, you've been there before.
You've been there before. I have been at the film festival, I think maybe 3 times before. Don't remember.
Oh my God, anyway, stop it.
We were walking, we did this one walk one day and we did like an hour walk from the hotel to this vegan bakery. And Mark was like, and remember, this is where we stayed on the street and we've got photos in that balcony overlooking the park. And I was like, no. Nope. Just completely offline, nothing, dead, nothing. I was like,
dead
that could have been anyone else. I was like, are you sure that wasn't a different girlfriend? He was like, I'm pretty sure I had a little kid called Bodhi. So unless there's like another child called Bodhi floating around, I'm pretty sure you're the one I had that child with. And I was like,
what?
Yeah, that seems correct.
That's so
went back into my iPhotos and I was like, oh, there it is. There's that lovely balcony and there's the park that we strolled in and zero memory. Even looking at the photos, I'm like,
oh my God.
No, I remember that. It makes me nervous for my future, Sarah. It makes me nervous.
Well,
is this a sign?
No, keep taking your love well. You'll be fine. Your brain will get online.
Oh my God. I've always had the worst memory. It's so funny. Anyway, so I have definitely been to the Toronto Film Festival before, but this felt like a new experience. And, you know, just a little backstory, which might be a seed of why I ended up having this dream. But it is wild there. It's like just a different experience. When you are in films and movies, depends how much people see your movies, but you typically get to lead like a normal life, and I do school drop-offs and pickups. But then when you're at a place specifically for film, it suddenly turns into like, it's like a Hannah Montana experience.
A whole other life.
A whole other life where you leave the hotel and there are fans there and there are people taking pictures and people following you around.
From?
I know. And I'm like, this is not my life. Who is this? Like, what? And I was like, are you sure you're not looking for someone else? And like, have pictures of me in lingerie. Like, can you sign like your tits?
God.
And I'm like, oh. I remember my publicist used to say like, don't sign those ones. Like, don't sign the like sexy ones. And I was like, whatever. Like, oh, look how hot I used to be.
Look how hot I am.
I was like, look at my body. Like, I'm going to sign that. Hell yeah, I'm proud. Anyway, so I basically went against her advice in every way.
Whoops.
Every time a picture came out like that, I'm like, damn, yeah, I'll sign that. Woo. Anyway, so it was this funny, it's just a funny, weird part of our job, right?
Yeah.
And so we were going from event to event, and our movie was slotted behind Ron Howard's movie. So Ron Howard has like Ana de Armas in his movie and
gorgeous.
Now I can't remember anyone else, but anyway, she's the main attraction for me.
I mean, if I saw Ana de Armas in person, I would forget anything else that was happening. And my whole entire brain would go blank and I'd be like, you're so gorgeous.
I don't want to objectify, but for a second, I'm going to be like, I have never seen. I literally was like, ugh, like my jaw dropped. And by the way, like there were beautiful women everywhere. Like Sydney Sweeney was like right by us and like, oh my God. I was like, wow, what a specimen. Like so gorgeous. And by the way, vibrant and kind and all those things. But Ana de Armas, I was like, whoa, the natural beauty that exudes from her. And I think it's because she's also just kind and gracious and generous. And she gave me, I don't even know she knew who I was. She gave me this big hug because she was wearing this like really soft, oh my God, because it's like 5 a.m. I can't remember. What's it called? The really soft
sweater?
Like sweater.
Chiffon.
It's like
cashmere.
Cashmere, that's the one. Because see how it's 5 a.m. and my brain hasn't gone online. Anyway, and also I forget everything. So she was wearing this like this cashmere soft sweater. She gave me this hug and I was like, oh my God, I'm like in this bubble of love, like with the most beautiful woman. And she was talking about me having children and was giving these beautiful compliments, and she was being so kind. I was like, this is because I saw her in Blonde. Like she played Marilyn Monroe and she did such a beautiful, like heartbreaking job, and she was so pitch perfect. And I was like gushing to her about her performance, and she was just like loving and warm. Anyway, I will say that whole experience was such a salve for me after having what I've talked about previously in the podcast, like moments of like career vulnerability and like, oh, am I worthy? And then there I was in these rooms with all these incredible people that I look up to. Anyway, so her movie was, I think, before us with like all these incredible people who I'm forgetting now. I think Nick Brawl is one of them. Anyway, whatever. Their movie.
Great actor.
Great actor. And then it was Nick Holt, who's my friend from Warm Bodies. So that was great. It was Big Nick fan. Holt and yeah, me too. And Jude Law and those guys from their movie. So we were kind of around with all of these. You go around with all these other movies and you stop off at these different like events essentially where you get interviewed, you take photos, you hold puppies. You literally hold puppies. We went to the People event. It's not called an event. I don't know what it is, like media station or something. And you go to these different buildings and you like get free merchandise and
press thing.
Yeah, it's like a press setup where you go and you take photos and you do interviews, and then there's like merch. They hand out free merch, and you take a photo with free merch and stuff. Anyway, that's
like a lanyard that says People Magazine.
Literally like free waters, or I got a whole outfit, like an amazing outfit. And I was like, cool, I'll wear that on the plane, which I did, by the way. And then, so we're like going around room to room. And so I'm bumping into some of the most famous people that you only see on TV, right? And so I'm suddenly in this like real working environment where it's like all these acting peers. And I think this is why I ended up having this dream.
Can't wait.
And, later that night, went to the Golden Globes party, and J-Lo was sitting behind us, and I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. Like my regular life of just like me being mum and 4 kids. And then you go to these parties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you go to these parties and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. This is the industry I'm in. Like, whoa, what a weird life.
So crazy.
So I was having that experience, and then we got back after the screening and a Q&A that I was doing. And it was me, Mark, in this tiny, 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 tiny hotel room at the Intercontinental, because they had booked it just for me to come. But then I was like, psych, me and the kids are coming. Woo, and Mark too. So there's going to be 6 of us in the tiny room. Anyway, it was a comedy of errors. We just didn't fit in beds. It was really funny. And they refused to bring like a trundle bed up, a rollerblade bed, because they're like for fire safety reasons. So we really were sleeping on top of each other with, by the way, 7 suitcases, because we were going, I was taking the kids back to Australia. Anyway, go to sleep, lying next to Mark, and I start having this very vivid and sexy dream. And I have always thought Eminem is so hot. I just from the moment forever. From the moment his music came out, I was just like, oh, he is so fine. And then I watched 8 Mile, and I was like, never has ever been a hotter man. Like, and by the way, the guy that I was dating at the time, who I went to the drive-in with to see 8 Mile back in the day, to me, he looked, and everyone used to say this to me as well, like when I was a teenager, because I think I was 17 when I saw that movie.
Oh my God.
Not only looked so much like Eminem, that he actually had like a similar kind of backstory. I mean, he wasn't a rapper, but he introduced me to rap and hip hop, and he had just a similar background to Eminem in some ways, right? Yeah. So then in my head, I was like, oh my God, I'm like dating the Australian version of this. So I became really obsessed with Eminem from a young age and followed his career. So my dream was that I was at the Toronto Film Festival, and I was going into all these rooms, and boom, I bang into Eminem. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a really big fan of your music, and I like followed your career, and I just wanted to like introduce myself and say hi. Went to walk away, and then it was like, oh, you're into rap? And I was like, yeah, I'm into rap. And in my dream, I dropped all these like rappers and these like groups that I was like, yeah, like EPMD, KRS-One, Mobb Deep, yeah, Master Ace. And he was really impressed. In the dream, by the way, everyone. This is the dream.
In the dream.
He was really impressed. He was like, oh, okay. Not that he'd ever have these reactions, but he was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. Like you really do, like, your stuff. And then we just started vibing and talking. And then suddenly I was like, oh my God, Eminem's flirting with me. Like what? But in the dream, I was me now with 4 kids at the Toronto Film Festival, and my husband was at the film festival with me. And for whatever reason, this version of Teresa was like, oh, fuck it, I'll have an affair. It's Eminem. So in the dream, I'm trying to hide my wedding rings, which are these wedding rings that I have. I'm covering them. I'm trying to literally twist them and pull them off my finger in my dream. It was so vivid. And then Eminem takes me into this car, and it gets so hot and steamy. We start making out, and I'm like, oh my God, my husband's going to see us. We got to be discreet. So we start making out, and then he literally like slides his hand under my butt. I'm wearing pants. He like grabs at me, and I was like, oh, that's the hottest thing ever. This is all and it's so vivid, and I'm like so turned on. I'm like, like, oh my God, I'm definitely going to fuck him. And then he takes me, like leads me up these stairs, and I walk past a friend of Mark and I's, Abby Cornish, who, and I said to Marshall, I said like, oh my God, she's friends with Mark. Like, we have to hide. Like, she can't see me. And he was like, all right. And so we're walking up, and I'm literally about to like do my hall pass. Like, here we go. Let's go. Woo, Eminem. And then boom, I wake up from the dream right as we're about to get it on properly.
Oh my God.
Wake up from the dream. And I'm like, realize I'm in bed. And I was like, wait, that was so realistic. Oh my God. And hot. And what? Oh my God, how sexy. Like, whoa. Like, how amazing that we get to have these experiences in our dreams. They're not real. But then I'm like, what woke me up? Look to the side of me. Mark is sitting up in bed. It's 2:30 in the middle of the night. He's on his phone, like scrolling on TikTok or something in the middle of the night. And so I hit him, and I'm like, what is, I like literally like, Mark, you just woke me up from the best dream I think I've ever had. I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, what? And I was like, why are you up on your phone in the middle of the night? Roll over, try to get back into the dream. I'm like, all right, now I get to like,
please
really like
take me back. Take me back.
I was like, take me back. I remember exactly where I was. We were just walking into the hotel room. Boom. Don't dream about him ever again. So I'm like, I'm dreaming about something else boring. And then eventually I wake up in the morning and I'm like, Mark, what were you doing in the middle of the night? You just woke me up from the hottest dream. And he was like, what? And I was like, oh, I've got to tell you my dream. Because he always laughs at like my crush on Eminem, because every time I'm like, he's so hot. He's the hottest. Like, oh, everyone has like their people that are their hall passes. Mine has always been Marshall Mathers. And it's this running joke because Mark, little sidebar story for a second, Mark was with Eminem. Literally, yes, in person. This was not a dream. He was auditioning for 8 Mile.
Stop.
In New York City with him on September 11th, 2001.
No.
In New York City, doing scenes with him, auditioning for 8 Mile, and they saw the plane hit the tower. So he was literally with Marshall Mathers when that happened.
What?
I know. I can't believe you don't know this story. So
I don't know that.
And so obviously the audition got shut down and everyone was like, what's going on? And so he was processing all of this with Eminem.
Whoa. That is insanity.
Anyway, that's a side story, but that's always been just this crazy thing that we've talked about is like, because I remember we always talk about like, where were you when you found out? And by the way, it was just September 11th. I remember where I was, and he has this really memorable experience of like being there and being with Marshall when that all went down. So anyway, so I'm telling him the story and I'm like, oh my God, and I was finally about to fuck him in my dream. And like, this is the only opportunity we can ever have affairs. Like, come on. Like, like I can't believe you woke me up. And we have this banter with each other. We have this banter with each other where like, we're really open about that stuff. Like, oh, it would have been so hot, you know, whatever. So, and I'm probably more open with him than he is with me.
Yeah, I would say.
Even though I literally would be like, that is so hot. Tell me everything. And then what happened? And he had this look of shock cross his face, like, like he had seen a ghost. And then I realized, oh my God, I've gone too far. I even included the trying to pull off my wedding rings. Like, oh my God, I've ruined him. Like, no, he's obviously feeling sensitive about the dream. And he was staring at me. And then looks like he started having a panic attack, but the lights were quite dim in the room. And I was like, are you okay? And I like held onto his hand and he started like breathing really shaky with his eyes wide open. He was like,
oh my God. And
then he started being like, babe. And then Bodhi came over because he heard, and Bodhi was like, Dad, and we're like, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, what? And then he was like, I had the same dream. And I was like, what? And he was like, I literally dreamt that you had an affair here in Toronto with Eminem. And I was like, get the fuck out. No, you did not. And he was like, I'm telling you right now, everything you just described to me happened, and I saw the entire thing.
Oh my God.
He was like, I saw you in the car with him.
Oh, it's so creepy.
I don't know why I'm doing the accent. Anyway, that's not how he sounds, but I always go into this weird accent when I do. I saw you, babe. But he was like adamant. He was like, you were in the car. I was like, had this most disgusting feeling in my body, and I was helpless in the dream, and I was just watching you enjoy these moments with him. I watched you pull off your wedding ring. I watched him pull you up these stairs, and I was like devastated and sobbing, crying in the dream, and just like was completely wrecked. He's like, and then I woke up from the dream in the middle of the night crying, and it was the most awful, vivid, real experience. And the only thing I could do to calm myself down, I kept looking over at you when you were sleeping peacefully. And all I could do is like get on my phone and go on TikTok. And then you woke up about 20 minutes later and hit me and said, you just woke me up from the hottest dream. So he's like, so you were playing out the dream from your perspective as the person perpetrating, being the perpetrator. He was like, and I felt it viscerally, like in my body, felt it as if it were happening. But what we figured out was that Mark must have had the dream before me, because he woke up and was on the phone for 20 minutes before I woke up. So he must have just had the dream. And I
Doesn't that kind of go with
dream.
like quantum
theory?
Like
that's what we like. Because Mark's like, this is a glitch in the matrix. This is it. This is proof. This is a matrix. Like, what is going on? And then we were like,
it's really weird.
Is this quantum theory? Because there's been all these breakthroughs in science surrounding quantum physics, and that time is not linear. And I was talking to like one of my best friends, Kat, last night about it. We were trying to break it all down, and she's like really esoteric thought, and she's really interested in this stuff as well. And we both came to the conclusion, we were like, what if there was a world in which like the sliding doors thing, where on some dimension this actually happened in a different timeline? And then, of course, Mark and I were very spooked out about it. We were both like, why do we both dream about him as well? Was there something? So I like Googled news, like, is he at Toronto? Like, is this a premonition? No, because I would never do that. But still, I was like,
but like,
is he coming
is there something
here?
that...
Yeah. And so I Googled it, and he had been in the news about something.
Watch you get like a next
job
couple
with
of
him. Something.
Yes.
And then
something's going to come up, and we're all going to be like,
oh my God. Yeah. But Mark was like, this is freaking bizarre.
I've literally never heard of this.
Never heard of it. I Googled it.
In the same bed,
same night,
on the same
dream,
having the same dream, just like a little bit of time apart. Like,
it was like we were characters in a movie.
I've never seen a movie where that's happened. Like, how... It's
like you're watching a movie of the man watching his wife have this experience, and the wife is like enjoying this experience. And so his feelings of the dream obviously were like horrendous and awful, and he felt complete. I was like, woo, that was so hot. Oh my God, that was amazing. That was the best dream I've ever had. Woo, like.
Is it still haunting him a little bit? Like, I would think
he was shook the whole rest of the day.
Too.
I kind of was like, this is fuel to my fire of there are things in the world that we don't understand, that we can't observe, that we can't measure. My whole like spiel on like, whoa, how dope is that? Like, we entered some weird portal where like we both were like tandem dreaming, and what an incredible thing. So I was excited by it. And also we were processing this with our kids, the little kids weren't really listening, but Bodhi was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, this just proves that there are things we don't understand. And I was like, I know. How incredible is that? And the way our subconscious mind works. So then we Googled it, and there is a phenomenon called shared dreaming, where two people can have the same dream. But I have never heard, and I went sort of into a deep dive, I've never heard of it happening at the same time to two people like lying in the same bed and having that experience.
We need a dream expert.
We need one. I actually reached out to one to be like, can you come on the podcast? Haven't heard back yet. So I will move on if you don't DM me back, okay? Anyway.
We need it because this is too crazy. It's too crazy.
I need someone to explain.
This is an unbelievable phenomenon. Has this happened to any of you guys? Like, I've never heard of anything like this. I've heard of like one person having recurring dreams. I've never heard of two people. Maybe you go on a psychedelic journey together if you're doing psychedelic drugs. Like, I don't know if that could be a thing, but like the dream together is insane.
Insane. But then, of course, for the rest of the day, he was like, every few hours or so, he would look at me and be like, what the fuck?
I can't believe you did that.
What the fuck? Because it felt so real to him.
Yeah.
But it's so weird because it felt real to me as well. Like in the dream, it was one of those super vivid dreams. I can remember everything. And I'm still like, I think back on it and I get a bit sweaty. Like, oh, it was so hot. Like the little move he did with the hand under the butt and grabbed my pussy and my ass. I was like, that was so hot. Oh my God. Anyway.
Wow, so, Eminem, you're so fresh.
Yeah. I was like, oh, you got the moves. But it's so funny. It's not Eminem, current Eminem either. So it was like Eminem, like 40-year-old Eminem, I would say. And like, but blonde hair. And for Mark, he had blonde hair as well. And he said the same. He was about like 39, 40 in the dream. I think he's maybe closer to 50 now. I don't actually know how old he is. So how weird that it was also the same timeline of Eminem, like not the current Eminem, but like maybe 10 years ago Eminem. Anyway, that was bizarre. He was shook for the rest of the day and then also the rest of the trip. And the other thing was Bodhi was like, Dad, what did I say to you? I said to you something crazy was going to happen in Toronto. Something really wild was going to happen to us in Toronto. So Bodhi had this feeling that like something, and Mark was like, oh my God, you said that to me on the plane. You said something like crazy is going to happen in Toronto. Anyway, so that was bizarre. The next day I'm at the premiere. I'm walking through the Cinemaplex and I'm looking up at like where the candy bar is because of course all I have on my mind is like, how can I get an extra large popcorn, extra salty? I just want to eat that during my premiere. I was like, all right, how am I going to do this? Like, yeah, I'll do the press and stuff, but I need my popcorn. Yeah. And then I'm looking up and I was like, okay, so they've got Sprite. No, I don't want a soda, blah, blah, blah. And then it cut to like a Deadpool trailer. And I was like, get back to the food. And I went back to the food and then it cut to a picture of Eminem. Just a picture of Eminem. Like literally just a photo of him, current Eminem with like the brown beard, the way he looks right now. A photo of him. And I was like, oh, and I just froze. And I was next to a producer and I was like, I told them all the story and I was like, oh, and I pointed at Eminem. And then by the time I pointed at him, I grabbed my phone out to try and film it. To be like, what the fuck? And then he was gone. And then so I waited there and I was like, I've got to wait for another 5 minutes to see if he comes back through the loop.
Oh my God.
But it didn't come back through the loop. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening?
It wasn't even like promoting anything. It was just a picture of him.
It was just a picture of him, like a picture of him. And I was like, why is he up there? Why is he up on the candy bar? I don't understand. And okay, and then I was pretty funny and maybe a little bit fucked up. The next night we went to We Live in Time, the premiere. With Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield. And of course I've worked with Andrew. So I was like, I'm going to go and support and we'll go and hang out with Andrew afterwards and blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way, he said that he loves you, by the way, Sarah, because he bumps into you guys.
I love him too. He's the sweetest human.
Yeah.
Love it. Love him.
So we go to this premiere and we're watching the movie, and it's like it's so romantic and so gorgeous, and like then there's this like sex scene and they're like getting all hot and heavy, and then Mark leans over to me and I was like, oof, you know, like, because in my movie Edition, there's a lot of sex scenes. And he was like, oof, like, all right, bracing myself for the sex scenes for Edition, like, and then I was like, everybody in the 313, put your motherfucking hands up and follow. I started rapping Eminem in his ear. And then in the sex scene. I thought I was being so funny. I was like, yo, no, while we stand tall, no, this one. And then he was just like PTSD. He was like, what the fuck? And of course I just think I've lost it. I think I'm so funny. I'm like,
I love you so much. That is so funny.
Like, oh my God. Anyway, he was like, what is wrong with you? But then he finally like started laughing. He was like, yeah, okay, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was really good.
Oh my God.
Was he able to like handle the sex scenes in Edition?
He did so well. And do you know what was so funny? I was sitting next to Joe, who I had all the sex scenes with. And then I was in the middle, and then Mark was on my other side. So like on one side I had the guy that I had to do all the sex scenes with, and on the other side I had my husband. And I know that like Mark's least favorite thing is like having to share me physically in this way. And it's just an awkward part of the industry that like we have to share our part. They have to kiss other people. And of course it doesn't mean anything and all that, but it's still the physicality of it. It's real. And you're portraying someone in love and sexually turned on, and you know that's a lot. And so it's hard for him. And he had sort of prepped himself, and I had told him, all right, it's this many. I'd already seen the movie. It's this many. This is what it's like. And before it came on, I was like, okay, there's about to be one. Okay, there's another one coming. And then he leant over halfway through. He was like, you don't have to do that. I was like, oh, okay, sorry. I just was trying to go above and beyond.
You're like, oh, and there goes my top. Oh, God.
And
then I'm in the shower.
Boob squeeze coming up. And there's a butt. Yeah, okay, there's a butt thing coming.
So that happened.
Yeah, anyway.
Oh my God.
He was so unbelievably blown away by the film.
Oh.
That all he did afterwards, because I was like, all right, maybe, you know, we'll process like how he feels about it or whatever. All he did afterwards, tears in his eyes, leant over to me and just said, tour de force. And I was like, oh. And he was like, babe, I am so proud of you, because I play this woman who is like in a relation or trying to be in this relationship, and she's navigating her obsessive compulsive disorder. So she's a counter, and she's really grappling with her mental health issues, which is stemmed from a trauma that happened to her when she was a child. And it's like such a beautiful look at mental health. And actually it's like positive. I think we see mental health portrayed in film oftentimes as like the big heavy burden that someone has to carry.
Yeah.
And in this film, it's like she's getting on with her life, and she's also really successful and so high functioning. And she's a mathematician, and she's so sexy and so fun and so charismatic. And so it's looked at in a different lens. And so the film is being celebrated by so many people because of the way we've handled the subject matter.
That it's not this like dark thing.
Yeah.
But
and
instead,
it's like, someone who's, instead of being like, I need to like tackle this, she's like, I'm learning to live with this. How do I fold this in a way where like,
I can't wait to see it.
It's so moving, and it's really fun, and it's so sexy, and it's so, you know, all these things. And the character's very similar, like a similar vibe and energy to like Jennifer Lawrence Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh yes, love that.
Is it the Silver Linings?
Yeah, Silver Linings
Yeah,
yeah.
Like in people's face and bubbly and woo and wild and crass and you know, she's just this wonderful all round person. So Mark was like blown away by the film. which took, I think, some of the sting out of having to watch your wife like be up there with another man. It was just the whole focus was on people have got to see this movie. People have got to, the movie's got to get out there. It's going to get bought. It's going to, this is going to be great for you sort of thing. So anyway.
I just can't. I can't. I keep going back to you rapping. Rapping
Emma. Everyone in the 3-on-3, put your motherfucking hands up.
I cannot.
I thought I was so funny.
It is. It's really funny. I would have died.
I was like, I am a comedian. And Mark was like, really?
Oh,
really?
That's insane.
Oh my God.
She's like, just eat your popcorn.
Yeah. He's like, so you think now's the right time to do that? Like when I just like vulnerably like leant over to you and was like, oh, I wonder how I'm going to go with the sex scenes tomorrow.
I feel like there's something here though. I feel like something else is going to come up about Eminem. And then it's going to be like, I don't know.
I know.
It's going to be like, oh, I really want Teresa Palmer in my next music video. Or
yeah, shout out Marshall, I'm a veil.
What?
I'm a veil.
What? I don't know. Like,
oh my God.
You're going to be the booty dancer.
I'm getting it ready now. I'll be amazing. Get this bum in there. Woo, yeah, shake it about.
I can't. Could you just breastfeed while you do it? Because that
tandem.
Would be,
actually, I'm not tandeming. Can you imagine? I was like, oh, hang on, no, she's 5. I definitely do not tandem. I'll do anything for Marshall though. Even if he wants that, I could probably figure that out.
I can make it happen. Oh my God. I can't. That is absolute insanity.
Yeah.
Absolute insanity. Oh my God.
Anyway, and the next solo episode, I'll tell you about the ghosts that are haunting me because I'm moving out of my house.
Yes, we need to do that. By the way, speaking earlier, you were talking about the job. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but you were just talking about like jobs and what you were thinking about with your career and like all of that stuff. And I have a kind of a crazy winter story I have to tell really quick, which is that somebody was asking me, hey, what happened with that job? And I was like, well, they haven't made a decision yet. It's still sort of up in the air. And they're like seeing a couple more people. And I'm like, it's great. Like whatever happens, but it was just like such a cool experience and whatever. Right. And so she was sort of around, I think, I don't know. I don't really remember her being there when this conversation happened. So either that day or the next day, I'm driving with her in the car and she's like, hey, Mom, do you know the thing? Have you ever heard the thing when one door closes, another one opens? And I was like, yeah, I have heard that. And, I was driving, so I was like lost in thought anyway. So I was like sort of at first kind of half listening to her. And then she was like, well, I saw this episode of Stillwater and it's a great show, by the way, if you guys haven't seen it, it's on Apple. She's like, and there's this drummer and a band and she goes on to tell the story. And I sort of like am back lost in my thought for a minute. So I'm like in and out of what she's saying. But the gist was that, something didn't happen for this drummer, but then something else amazing happened. So I was like, oh yeah. She goes, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean, Mom? And I was like, yeah.
Does it mean I'm not getting the job? Is that what you're saying, Winter?
Well, then she goes, then I go, well, yeah. I mean, do you know what that means? Like, it's kind of like, if you really wanted to go to, and she goes, a concert. And I was like, yeah, if you wanted to go to a concert and let's say you couldn't. And so that night, you didn't go and you were disappointed, but then like a couple of days later, something else amazing happened, or, that night something amazing happened and it was unexpected. And I was like, or it's like, if I like really wanted a job, if I had this job that I really wanted and I thought, wow, that's the job, it's going to be so great. And then, it doesn't work out. And so then a few days later, like some other opportunity comes up and it was like bigger and better and more amazing than I ever could have thought. And she goes, that's why I'm telling you this story, Mom. And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, that's why I'm telling you this story. I don't want you to be sad when the job doesn't happen. And I was like, okay, are you talking about like a job that I have
the job
that's coming up? Or like, and then, and then she was like, yeah, no, what? And I was like, well, I don't know, just like the thing that you were just talking about. You're like referencing a job, and she was like, I don't know. And I was like, okay.
Back to my 4-year-old self now.
Portal's closed.
Yeah, like literally she went online and then she was like, channeling. And then she was like, and I'm offline, back to normal 4-year-old girl.
I mean, how weird is that though? Like, I mean, weird as in amazing and very winter, but like, she's telling me about when one, like a saying, a metaphor, you know, like
I wonder where she heard it. I wonder.
She said it was from Stillwater.
The show.
Yeah. That she like got this concept and then she was sort of thinking about it on the drive and then started telling me this whole thing. And she's like, well, that's why I'm telling this for you.
She's so like tuned in.
It was so weird. I was like, whoa, that was so crazy.
Well, they say that like, this is the age where that portal is still open and they're getting downloads. So you're supposed to be listening when they're giving messages to you. Susie was telling me a story the other day that when she was 4, she had these like recurring dreams about a past life. And she used to, and her mum told her that she was like dressed. The little girl was dressed in like olden day clothes. And she remembers being in this like, and there was horse-drawn carriages, and she remembers like looking up at this soldier who walked past and he pulled a rabbit out of a bag and then slit the rabbit's throat in front of her as a little girl. And it's this like really violent, like awful reoccurring dream that she has, but she used to tell her mum every time it happened. And she had these like visceral like feelings of like being the little girl and being so afraid and like looking at the bunny and she was 4, the same age as Winter. She was 4 and her mum always has said like, you were tapped into an experience that has happened to you. And there's like some leftover trauma, which actually this is a good segue into Sarah has organized an experience for us to actually do like a past lives. What's it called? A past lives?
I'm terrified.
I know. I'm so curious.
I know. I'm curious too. I guess it's a past lives reading. Like
a reading.
But what's interesting, you know, I don't know when this is going to happen. So we have to like figure it out. But maybe Teresa goes first.
I'm happy to go first.
Okay,
it's funny because you and I did not grow up believing in past lives. Like that's not anything that was ingrained in us.
Which is crazy, but I definitely, you know, have felt, well, because I had a recurring dream as a child, which I think I talked about on here many episodes back towards the beginning, but I had this crazy recurring dream that would happen all the time. And it scared me so bad every time that it would happen. But it was like centered around my like brother and him being kidnapped and like all these things. And so it was bizarre, but like, I have always been interested in like this past life journey. I didn't even know how a past life reading works. So when the guy wrote us and he was like, well, you know, it's one thing if somebody sat there and like told you about your past life, but why would you believe them? He was like, the way that I do it is that it's like you're hypnosis. You're in hypnosis and you have the experience yourself. You like go through the experience of your past lives. And I'm like, oh, it's so crazy.
I'm nervous because
I know, but the lady that
comes up
introduced, I know, the lady that you and Eminem in a past life.
Yeah, me and Marshall.
The like lady that introduced us said that she had this unbelievable experience and that she would be willing to talk about it. So I wonder if she would be willing to come on and talk about her experience.
Wow.
Like, you know,
I'm definitely curious to. I've had it done before.
You have
with this like famous
hypnosis
reader. No, the guy went into hypnosis. He went into hypnosis and he's like a very famous guy in this area.
Okay.
And like, because I went to him through like someone in the industry who's like really into this stuff. It was crazy. I remember at the time, I remember who I was dating. And I kind of went because I was trying to end this relationship. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's just say sushi date. Anyway. Me, Sarah, and this guy.
Oh, that was
and
a
Eric
good
went
one.
on a sushi date. And then when he went to the toilet, I leant over to Eric and Sarah and I was like, yeah, I'm going to break up with him. And they're like,
we were both like completely in shock.
We were having this double
like,
date. And I was like, yeah. No. I'm going to break up with this guy.
It's always an amazing ride when you're with Teresa.
Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, so I went to like try and help me end this relationship. Yeah. And like to get answers and whatever. Anyway, this guy fully tuned in to my lounge room that I was living at with this guy. And the stack of books that we had on, so our dining room table wasn't used as a dining room table. There was just stacks of books there. And he told me, like the stack of books on your dining room table. That this guy's never freaking been to my house.
I got goosebumps.
Like the stack of books on your dining room table, like the baggage and the heaviness that you're feeling, it's like the clutter that you haven't cleared. And I was like, and then I brought up this ex-boyfriend of mine who like comes to me in recurring dreams. And he was like, yeah, this is someone that you've had many lives with. This is why you feel so deeply connected, like a twin flame experience. But in your past life, you were together and you're artistic and creative. You were unbelievably gifted as a musician. I was a violinist in my past life, apparently. And you were in relationship with this person. You were female, he was male. And there was a power dynamic where he clipped your wings and like you were never able to like really shine and come into your greatness. And karmically in this life, his heart is meant to be broken and you're meant to shine and come into your greatness artistically and get accolades and get success and make money and whatever. And he said this to me at the very beginning of my career. And it was actually in some ways like really healing because I'd been harboring some guilt about like how I'd broken this person's heart. And, even whether or not it's true, there were some really wild things that couldn't be explained that really sort of spooked me. And I was like, whoa, what is he tapping into? Like his portal's wide open. And there were other lives that he told me about, how I had 13 children in one life, but 9 of them died.
What?
In infancy. And I was a male and I was a teacher in that situation. And this life, karmically, I'm going to have healthy children. I'm going to have many children because I went through the grief of like this experience in a past life, like hundreds of years ago or whatever. So it was pretty wild. And I think back then I probably was a little less open than I am now. Now I'm like, will I believe everything? But back then I was like, ugh. It was a little bit spooky because
totally,
I was fresh into the journey, my own spiritual journey outside of like how I'd been indoctrinated. And so it was a little bit nerve wracking and I wish I don't know where any of the notes are for that because I wrote a lot of notes, but these are the things that stood out to me. And I'm like, all right, this is really interesting information. And, so I'm open and I'm curious. I was like, I wonder if any of the same sort of stories will come up with this past life person.
I know. I think it'll be so crazy and fascinating. And we'll do it. Well, guys, we are about to head into spooky season and we have a couple of fun little things up our sleeves, but we definitely are going to get to the bottom of why Teresa's having so much spiritual activity at her house that she just arrived at in Australia. So.
Oh my God. And by the way, this very episode got interrupted by my lights coming on and off. It happened like 6 times. Lights on, off, on, off.
That's nuts.
My internet
and I had
on, off.
electrical. We'll have to talk about that on the next episode. Okay,
we'll talk about all the spookiness for Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah,
we love you
guys.
Dazeys. And you can find us, in all the places, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a little review and rating because that's how people find our show. And if you're really feeling great, you could share it on Instagram because that's also fun way to let everybody know that you listen to our podcast. All right. Thank you guys.
Love you guys. Bye.